So it's about giving children the freedom to choose their own interests, their own passions, to really unlock their true potential.
I am very pleased to welcome today Alma Moya Losada, who is co-founder and CEO of Aequaland. Alma will share with us how we can provide children the opportunity to celebrate their uniqueness, to foster their differences, and become the person of their choice, without the limitations set by stereotypes, rigid roles, and prejudices. Welcome, Alma, to this talk. I'm very happy to have you here. Do you want to say a few words about yourself?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Ulrike, for the intro. I'm very happy to be here with all of you. I just will add something more, my personal spice. I'm originally from Spain with Italian and Greek roots. I've been working and living in Switzerland since 2012. So it's now 9 years. And I work across different industries in medtech, EdTech, diversity and inclusion, like women empowerment in an NGO, as well as video games. And now since April 2020, I started working in Aequaland, my startup for educating kids through gaming. And native Spanish, speaking fluently as well English and French. And I'm passionate about inclusion and empowerment and tech that supports creating human potential. And that's why I'm creating Aequaland.
Thank you very much. I think it's a very exciting project which you have there, this startup. So whoever listens to this talk, whenever people listen to this talk, I can only invite them to have a look on your website and to see what you're doing and to help Alma to bring this wonderful project to life. So Alma, why is it so important to lay the foundations for gender equality early on in the lives of human beings?
So to set up this gender equal foundation, the first step is being aware of gender play on learning. So children and adults, we are immersed in a social and cultural environment that produces and perpetuates rigid gender roles. And the stereotypes that we see in entertainment, retail, media, and education generates the inequalities that we see in adult life. And this is why it's so important to understand the influence of parents, families, teachers on children's constructions of gender, as well the effects of this construction on kids' learning have implications for their future achievements and for the future careers. So that's why children should have a wide range of opportunities to play and learn, and being aware that society labels things in a certain manner, and we're gonna give some examples of that, and we don't even see the problem. And it's the everyday norm. And it happened to me in a conference. I was in Moscow 2 years ago. It was a panel discussion for men and myself. And when introducing each of the men, there was this expert coming from the US, and then this influencer or press journalist from the Netherlands, and this one. And for me, when I introduce myself, they say, "This beautiful woman from Switzerland," and I was like, "Why? I'm not here because I'm beautiful." So that's what I mean. Like, and the person that was moderator, he was not mean, and he didn't even realize when I spoke to, he was like, "I'm so sorry." Well, like, just came naturally. Like, you are such an inspiring woman and professional, but that's what I mean is like, we don't even, and no one probably on the audience notify, so only myself, but that applies in our life So and for kids, what I'm coming back to the kids is, so giving these opportunities, what we are providing to them, and what I want to do with Aequaland is create a platform for equal opportunities. So it's not to say that boys have to stop of playing football or girls have to stop playing princesses. It's nothing to do, but it's how they can have equal opportunities to do so. And by doing these foundations, it helps them on social and communication skills. It helps them as well on having greater sensibility and more diverse friendships and possibilities. And when you learn about others and learn acceptance of others, you also accept yourself, and you learn to be that each person, we are unique and we have our unique superpowers.
Yeah, that's exactly how people can just step into their full potential as well. I mean, that's the whole point, yeah, of being yourself and not being biased or limited by whatever you have been told you should be. Now, for those who listen to this, they might think, yeah, this is relatively obvious. I mean, we still have like pink dresses and pink rooms and pink walls and pink toys and all of that for girls. And even if I don't buy this for my girl, in the beginning, sooner or later, she wants it because all her friends, which are girls in school or kindergarten, have it, and so on. So there's this obvious thing happening. But when we prepared this talk, and I found this really interesting, apart from the obvious things, which we all probably realize, there are quite a lot of not so obvious things, which we do and say, if we are parents or not, that immediately put children into a specific category. Can you tell us a bit more about these more subtle things that are happening currently?
Yeah. So I'm going to give 4 examples, and one is from the food industry. So it's Burger King story, I call it. I went with my 2 nieces, to the Burger King and ordered 2 Happy Meals. And when I I was for the payment, the lady asked me, boy or girl? And I replied, why? Does it matter for 2 Happy Meals? The gender, And then she say, well, it's for me to give you 2 free toys. And I say, well, what do you have? And she say, we have a car and a doll. And I say, well, then that should be the question. And I asked my nieces, car or doll? So that's what I mean. Like, you go to so many places and it's like, girl or boy, where, and that's not the point. So that's why we need to realize and kind of identify these momentums to have an impact on the education that we want to provide. Because my nieces end up they decided to choose one the doll and one the car, so they have both. So and shouldn't be link the toy to the gender. It should be them to choose. And for example, the opposite happening in McDonald's. If you go McDonald's, you order 2 Happy Meals, they do game toys, but they are free of gender, so they do it by themes. So you cannot change. They just give you one, and if the kid already have it, then you can change it, but you don't have this boy or girl theme. And then when I say that to the girl, to the woman in the Burger King, she say, "Oh wow, that's a good point." So people, when you make the point, they understand, they get it quite quickly. So I think also if you see things, behaviors, say it, because that will have a positive impact as well. Well, that's a short story. Another one is of Barbie. Barbie, we all know from the toy industry Barbie. So Barbie has for many years created this blondie perfection of blonde with blue eyes, high heels, and giving not to children and more importantly for women probably and girls, a grown ideal of beauty and society representation. But now is leading the way on Barbie with fashionists. They are creating curvy, petite, tall, from different shapes, colors. They have even disabled Barbies with a prosthetic leg, with wheelchair, like all kind of. Plus, they're also creating for professions. So you can choose from vet, astronaut, pilot to teacher, chefs. So they're really walking the talk. So they are moving really, and this is Barbie, but another example could be also Tommy Hilfiger is walking the talk. They have created a collection of clothes that is only for disabled people. And the CEO say, this is not gonna generate revenue, but we want to be inclusive, and that's part of our mission. And so they're walking the talk. So we see that these women leaders and men are stepping up, but also companies. And it's happening, and we are moving from this mega pink mansion, huge pink wardrobe, convertible pink car, all the heels collection from Barbie to a much more diverse and collection, and that represents more the society where we live. But still, I'm going to say on the opposite side, there is gendery toys, very like Bizak is a toy a brand that they still have this pink packaging, girly pictures for nail kits, bracelet creation, hairdresses, emergency, pregnancy room, very girly gender roles, and they're all in pink, and you have the really typical pink L. And the same applies for boys. They have blue, black, gray colors, and you have really this strong competitor and message of violence with guns and more aggressive also messages. So we, as a parent or as a family member, and myself, I am an auntie, and I would say that I'm really conscious when I go to a toy store what decisions I made. And for Playmobil toys, I always love Playmobil. They always have these blue boxes, like it's kind of unisex and with different themes. But now they have, and I'm very disappointed because it's like a step backwards. They have created 10% of their boxes now. They are pink, and they're with themes are usually associated with girls and women, like nursing and so. So I see companies like Barbie moving a step, like into inclusive education, and other companies like doing something that they've never done it before. When I was small, there was no pink boxes, and now they are adding that layer. Why? So we have to be conscious, and as a family member or mother, or on what we decide to buy. Yeah. And so this is from an example from the clothing industries, H&M, another brand. If you go to the section girls under 8 years old, it's all unicorns, and you have pink, purple, and white. That's the colors. You don't have anything else. And if you go to boys, it's monsters and superheroes, and that's the only options. So if you only buy in H&M because the price is good, I understand, but you have to also be conscious on the message that you are all the time giving to your kids. Because we give it through retail, through entertainment, through media. So the messages are coming from every industry is transversal. So the impact is very strong. And the last story I'm going to say is from the sport industry, because I love sports. I wanted to buy a bike, and it was so difficult to find one bike that was not a normal current bike as my bike, because I could have only the pink with the basket and princesses, and then you have the blue with the superheroes or monsters or dinosaurs, something super aggressive, with something very softy and kind. So I couldn't find a normal bike, a normal price, a regular price to buy. And I was very disappointed because the more normal bikes, it was super expensive, and for kids, it's changed so quickly. So it was not the investment worth. So just a few examples giving you that you realize that it's really in everywhere, and we don't see it. That's when I spoke with many of my friends and colleagues, Alma, wow, I didn't realize. It's like, it's so obvious when you say it, with the Burger King thing, it's so obvious, but when you are there, boy or girl, two girls, you just reply automatically because you think it's normal, but it's not normal.
It's just, we are just used to this. We are just all used to this. It was always like this, and I mean, maybe different in the colors and so on, but it's always clear we make this difference. And I think there's something, it is obviously the consumer behavior which we have there. So if people wouldn't buy the pink stuff, then the pink stuff would disappear. It's clear on the one hand, yeah. But on the other hand, there are also probably all these rather, subtle remarks that parents might make, or aunts or uncles or friends or whoever who is speaking to children when they do something. For example, we all know that women have a difficult time when they have to take risks, usually. That's something that men are just much more better in taking risks. They just go for it, yeah. And I speak to many women who say, I would love to be such a risk taker, because there's a lot of opportunity in there. And I see that if you want to have huge growth in whatever area, you need to take risks. And there's this one behavior. I was thinking about my own childhood, when I was jumping, I was playing a lot with boys. Why? Because there were only boys in the street where I was living. And my mother found that really bad, because she really said, like, oh, how can she become a girl if she's playing all the time with boys? And I remember that, even though I was very young, I was only 6-7 years old when she probably said that. But I remember this because even when I was a child, I thought, what does she mean by that? I didn't understand the problem. And there was always this remark which stick to my head, even when I got heard later on in my life. Don't jump from this whatever high table or so, because you will hurt your knee and this will look ugly at your wedding. You see, I mean, it's a remark that has been made maybe in the 70s, 80s, but we still probably treat girls differently. Little girls especially are more protective than we are probably with boys. And this has an influence on their lives and how they see themselves and how courageous they are in taking risks or trying something new. What is your experience with this topic?
Yeah, and that's I want to say is really we have to be attention to the words. That's one of the solutions I'm going to propose. Attention to the words that we say to our kids, because we tend, for girls actually and for women in general, we tend to be more focused on how we look instead of what we do. So one way in which we tend to stereotype girls in particular is when we talk about if I say beautiful, sweetie, cutie, it's obvious who we are talking about. And if I say the same in strong, bigger, just this kind of wording is just you have someone in mind, or even it's happening in adult life when you say a leader. How looks like a leader? You see a white man on his 50s, So we own a suit. So that we have already preconceived images of who this person looks like, and the same when we say certain topics, words. And what I was saying, focusing instead of how we look is focus more on what we do, and instead of making feel our girls good for your hair looks very nice, is focus on trying on their skills and what they have achieved instead. And what you were saying is we should focus more on the jumping. Okay, you're jumping good, but okay, you have to explain. You have to put your knees this way, or prepare your hands in case you fall. So it's more on the how you can fall and make maybe rethinking the way they not forbidden. I think we should stop forbidden doing things. I think they have to try, and if you fall, it's not the end of the world. We all fall, and I think that's what we learn by falling, failing, and fail forward, fail for often. And so I would say trying to focus more on the skills and focus more on the achievements, and rather than on the fears, and and also try to educate more girls as boys and boys more as girls. That would be my recommendation as well. Mm-hmm. Try to switch that mixing up, on how we tend to be with men or women, and the reverse, and also apply into your co-workers as well. I think it's a good tip to apply in your life in general, because I'm trying to do so as well. When my ex has a little boy, and I was always trying to be more feminine with him in certain giving toys and more caring roles, and with my nieces is no sports. Come on, you jump, you climb, you go. As I do a lot of sports, and I push them a lot on that sense. So I think it's really important to swap also genders in a sense, and focus on the skills, and be careful with the words. Yeah, because another thing when you were saying about this, you say jump for a girl, but also for a boy we say stop crying, because men don't cry, no. But I would say, no, stop saying stop crying, say, oh, crying is okay. And say, okay, how are you feeling? And they can start to name emotions and name these kind of things. So I think we should guide also children on focusing on the positive, and focus on guiding them on that, and use our words more wisely as adults.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really about stepping back, or sometimes just holding on before saying something.
Yeah.
Kids are being with adults, and indeed reflect from time to time. What I want to say here, would I say exactly the same in the same tone and with the same intention? Would I say that if this person had the other gender? When I say it the same way, and just maybe counter-checking this here and there, and by this detecting probably some quite subtle messages that come across, we do not put out these messages with any bad intent. Obviously, there are so many things, like your first remark when you said you're beautiful on stage. He meant it certainly as a compliment, not realizing that it is reducing you to a physical thing, whereas you're here for your knowledge. So it is all about these little remarks where we think we're doing maybe something good or something that is completely harmless, whereas it is maybe something that is harmful in a way, especially when it accumulates over years and years and years. Do you have other solutions that you can share with our audience?
Absolutely. Finding role models around your kids. Can be physical person as your neighbor, or can be on books, movies, or internet. Like, for example, your neighbor Lucy can be a data scientist that would love to talk to your daughter or your son. So I think find people around your area, a neighborhood or school, family, friends, and that's very important. For example, at Aequaland, we share unexpected job role models on our social media. And last month we have Cristina Juaran, is a motorcycle rider that was champion in the Spanish Feminine Speed Championship, and she's also a mother of 2 girls. So I'm trying to see that, and it's not, we are not talking about Serena Williams. I'm trying to put also professionals that are more accessible. I mean, for us, it's good to talk about Michelle Obama or Serena Williams, but sometimes it's so far from us, and it's one in so many million people. So it's better to talk about this. Cristina Juaran is a motorcycle rider. She lived from that, but is a regular athlete. That's what I mean, that you can be a regular athlete and have a living off, without becoming a Serena Williams. So that's what I want to also normalize certain careers as well that maybe seems unusual, but can be also accessible. And so that will be one thing. And also another way of role playing is, as a mother or as a dad, when you are playing with your kids, is the role play that you get, like when you play with them. If you are a mom, you could say, okay, I'm the mechanic or the firefighters, or you are the pirate, so it's really also how you involve and play the gender yourself on the gameplay with them. So I think that also is important. It could be the people around, and also the games that you can play with your kids. So that's another thing, and another great thing that I do a lot with my niece, and I recommend is reading no traditional stories. So another great way to challenge the stereotype is there is more and more. That's Aequaland what we are doing, but it's like we have to move away from Cinderella, don't reflect modern gender roles. So it's time for alternative. And I love, for example, Good Night Stories for Rebel Girls. I bought this book for my nieces, but I book it also for the little boy of my ex. And I think also that is important. There is a lot of more female role models and like Princesses, Smarty Pants, and other books like that are great to buy for girls. But I think it's also important for boys, because it's also empowered. Let's make them aware that they are strong female characters. So we need to also educate boys to say, okay, there are also women that are astronauts. There are also women that are, scientists. So it's visible for both genders to see that women have strong roles. And movies like Frozen and Brave as well. And we have also Charlie and Lola, or Dora the Explorer. My nieces love Dora the Explorer. And they're strong female lead characters. They're confident, they're brave. So try to find also this type of movies, books, because there are more. But what I'm suggesting is like when there is a new movie, a new book, you check yourself. And this is inclusive, what message I'm giving to my kid through this movie or through this book. So to be more conscious about the role that it plays these stories on them, because it's all about role models, and it's very important. And also colors, I think, is a big thing for kids. The pink and blue, the pink for girls, blue for boys. And it's such a standard choice that many people don't do it without thinking. You just enter into a toy store or clothing brand, and we don't see it. So I would say I'm not saying that you have to get rid of these colors or anything, but it's be conscious about that and the impact that have in your kids, and maybe ask them to what colors do you like, or what do you don't like, what is your preferred color, or try different colors and see what is fits also best, because also depends on your color of the skin. Also, you have certain colors suit you best, or for the color of your eyes. So let them also to pick up and choose more, and because also we tend to make a lot of decisions for our kids, but they can also make their own decisions. We can guide them, obviously, but giving a bit more space.
Yeah, more space for decision making and for their own creativity as well. Because as long as we try to prescript somehow what they have to decide, or only give them this a very limited choice, then they get used to this limited choice and obviously will not develop their full creativity, which is a completely other story also what happens in schools later on, and so on and so forth. It's quite a big topic. We are coming already to the end of the talk, and I will just wrap up. I wrote down 5 really nice findings that people can apply whether they have children or not, actually, in their own lives. The first one is really about weighing your words, and we had a nice comment here in the chat as well that words are really important, and it is true, words make a difference. The ones that you say to yourself and the ones that you say to others. So really thinking about that. And a nice trick here which you gave us is imagine you speak to the other gender when saying things. Does it still sound right? If not, probably you put in some gender bias into your words in a certain way. The second thing was find role models that are untypical. Yeah, really find role models for your boys, for your girls, for both, that are maybe untypical, so that they know that like everything is possible. I can be the person that I want to be. Point number 3 was about role playing. I found that is a really good thing. Maybe your mother, why should you take on the typical female roles when you're role playing? Yeah, why should you do that? Can you take on a very untypical role, something you are not in your own life either, but it's a role play, so why not playing something totally different? And then obviously being careful about what stories are you reading to your children, what movies are you watching. And I think here again you can apply this filter of just switch the roles in your mind. And does it still sound natural? If it doesn't, then there's a lot of bias in there probably. And the last thing was about the whole color thing, the whole visual thing, because we get a lot of messages by our words, but we get even more messages that are coming in subconsciously with our tone, with our environment, with what we see and what we feel. And colors play a big role. They influence us unconsciously all the time. And if you're living for 5 years in a pink room, then it has some consequences in how you think about yourself later on and in this very moment. If you had now to choose one of these or another one, what is, in your opinion, the one main takeaway that you would like to give to our audience, which they can apply when they just want to focus on one important thing?
So for me, and what I'm trying to do at Aequaland and with the kids and even my friends, myself, is the freedom to choose. So give freedom. I think a truly equal and safe environment is not about making children to do stuff that they want to do or not, or fit into a certain standard or box. So it's about giving children the freedom to choose their own interests, their own passions, to really unlock their true potential. And I'm not saying to stop boys of playing football or girls to stop dressing up princesses. That doesn't mean that. But what I mean is like simply we show girls or show your daughter, show your niece, or that they can play with toy cars and they can make noise and they can shout out and climb, and to boys to say, okay, you can play with dolls, you can take care of this, like baby, and you can also cry and say what does mean to you, how do you feel, and encourage that too. So I'm not forcing dolls on boys or cars on girls, not making sure, but just making sure that they have that choice.
Thank you so much for watching this talk. If you haven't subscribed yet, click here, follow us on Instagram, or become active yourself in our LinkedIn group. I am very much looking forward to having you on board. You are important, and together we can make a difference. See you next time.